Okay, so I am starting on page 376. I'm giving a little review from last night's homework. So if I look at this question right here, I want to know where it starts. And so the place where it starts is at this 2. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put a dot in the 2. It is an open dot because there is no equal sign. Okay, it's an open dot because there is no equal sign. Does it point towards my desk or towards the door? Okay, so it points towards the door. And I know that because this sign right here points towards the door. Remember that this trick only works if the letter's in the front. So the letter has to be facing in the front. It has to be the only thing there. Okay. So it looks like we got that and we understand that from last night. Tonight's homework is going to be page 377, where we continue to go through. Page 378, where we continue to go through. But you have a lot of time in class today to work on. Okay. So we're going to talk about one last thing before we do that, which is on page 371. Page 371 is introducing interval notation. So a lot of you are like, I totally understand this. We did this with little gators when we were in elementary school. We know that this means greater than. We know that it means less than. So you actually really like this lesson because it's super easy for you. But now we're getting to the point where we're adding more things on. So if you look right there, there's some parentheses. There's a negative infinity, comma, -5, and then there's another parenthesis. Okay? It looks a little scary right now because you've never seen this before. But I'm telling you that when I get a bunch of things on this, it's a lot easier to write all those things in interval notation than it is to write it with less than, greater than. Okay. So, if I look at this, it is an open circle. An open circle means that I'm going to give a parenthesis. If I look at this, it has an arrow. An arrow means I'm going to give a parenthesis. The open circle is on -5. So I put a -5 there. That arrow goes on and on forever in the negative direction, which means that the last number it goes to is -infinity. The very last number that goes to is -infinity. Even though you don't see it there on that graph, it goes all the way to -infinity here. So then it asks about this x is less than or equal to -5. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw this again. I have my little number line. I have 0, I have -5, I have -10. And so I know that I'm going to put my dot on -5. I'm going to color this dot in because it's an equal. So because of that line underneath, I color the dot in. Does it point towards my desk or towards the door? Towards my desk. So I know it goes that direction because this sign went that direction. So the arrow matches. So, if I have a closed dot, a closed dot is a bracket. If I have a closed dot, the closed dot is going to look like a bracket. If I have an arrow, what's the arrow look like? Okay, so my bracket is on the number -5. My parenthesis goes all the way to the end of my negatives, which in a perfect world would be the number -infinity. My -infinity is just a concept, it's not an actual use a placeholder. So then if I'm going to draw this line right here, and I'm going to go 0, 5, 10, and I'm going to go put little ones in. 6, 7, 8. And I need a bracket on 5. What does the bracket stand for? The bracket is a straight line equal sign. An equal sign means we're going to get a closed dot. So the bracket means that we can get a closed dot. It goes to 6, and it's a straight line equal sign. You're going to get a closed bracket. This means you get a closed dot. Okay, attach. Okay, this is an interval. It tells you it goes from here to there. So off on the side, I'm going to take a few notes. An interval. In English, an interval means that I'm going to go from here to there. What's nice is that in math, it means the same thing. Okay? It goes from the first number to the second number. When I put a parenthesis, this means that it does not equal. It does not equal. That happens when you hit infinity. Okay? You don't actually know what infinity is, so you don't know what it equals. If you complain that you know what infinity equals, you deserve a Nobel Peace Prize. So if you figure it out, let me know. Okay? So, a parenthesis means not equals. That means that you're going to see a less than sign, a greater than sign, or it's going to go to some sort of infinity, whether it's positive infinity or negative infinity. That's a parenthesis. A bracket means that it equals. Okay? So it's going to have a less than equal sign. It's going to have a greater than equal sign. It'll have an equal sign. It's a closed dot. Okay? So a closed dot on your graph. The parenthesis is an open dot on your graph or an arrow going one way. That's the basics of interval notation. You're going to go ahead and you're going to match these together right now on your own. For those of you watching this in a later class, you're going to pause the video. So my answers are listed right here. I've done a parenthesis that goes with the 3 because it goes on and on forever. It's an open dot. It has no equal sign. It's going to get a parenthesis. I kind of remember this because it's like a circle, and the parentheses are kind of circular. The 4 has an equal sign. It has a little line underneath it. This tells me it's a straight line equal sign. It's going to get a bracket. It also tells me that since there's an extra thing, I would color in that dot. There's an extra thing for me to do with the dot. I went through and wrote down the other 3 answers. I want you to show me how you get to there. On the next page, it says that we're going to play a game. We're not going to play this today. Aww. Okay. It's a game of memory. We're not going to play this today. And then here are all of the questions from your homework on page 370. Oh, no, not from your homework. From the page we did the other day in class on 370. It wants you to go through and write the interval notation for this. So I'm going to do a few of them as practice. So on number 21, is it going to be an open dot or a closed dot? Open. Why is it open? Because it's not equal to. Does this mean that it gets a parenthesis or a bracket? A parenthesis. Okay. So I get a parenthesis there on -6. This arrow tells me that it goes all the way on and on forever to negative infinity or to positive infinity? Positive infinity. So I'm going to put a positive infinity down there. And can we put a bracket on infinity or a parenthesis? Parenthesis. It has to be a parenthesis. It still goes with that whole an open circle is kind of circular. Those infinity signs are kind of circular. You're going to put that circular parenthesis on it. This is because we never know what infinity is equal to. Okay, if you know that, you should go and get a lot of money. So right here I have 25. 25, is this going to be an open dot or a closed dot? Closed. Why? Because of that equal sign. Does this mean that I get a bracket or a parenthesis? A bracket. Okay, so I'm going to get a bracket on 0. Does it go on and on forever to infinity or to negative infinity? Okay, so since negative infinity is smaller than 0, I put the negative infinity first. Negative infinity is smaller than 0, I put the negative infinity first. So you told me I get a bracket on 0 and I get a bracket on infinity, right? Why not? Okay. I don't put a bracket on infinity. Just because the 0 got a bracket doesn't mean the infinity does. The infinity gets a parenthesis always. Okay? We don't know what it equals. The 0 gets a bracket because we know what it equals. It does equal 0. (26) is going to be different than any of the other problems that we've looked at so far. Why? There's 2 numbers, okay? So what's nice is I know that it goes from -1 to 2. I don't have to figure out my infinities right now. But does the -1 have a parenthesis or a bracket? How do you know it's a parenthesis? Because it's not equal to. It's an open dot. How about the 2? It's also going to get a parenthesis. Why? Because it's not equal to, it's an open dot. 27 is also going to be a little different. Why? There's 2 equations. So I got to do 2 of these. Okay? So, does the 2 get a parenthesis or a bracket? A parenthesis. There's parentheses around 2. Does the 2 go on and on forever to negative infinity or to positive infinity? Positive infinity. So do I write the 2 first or the positive infinity first? I write the 2 first because 2 is smaller than infinity. Do I put a bracket or a parenthesis on 2? Why is it a parenthesis? Because it's not equal to. Do I put a bracket or a parenthesis on the infinity? Why? Because it's always a parenthesis. Okay, so x is less than -1. Does the -1 get a bracket or a parenthesis? Parenthesis. It goes on and on forever to infinity or negative infinity? How do you know that it goes to negative infinity? Because it points towards my desk. It points towards the lower numbers. So do I start with negative infinity or do I start with -1? I start with negative infinity because negative infinity is technically smaller. You know that feels weird and it's weird, but it is. So you already told me I put a parenthesis on -1. Do I put a parenthesis or a bracket on negative infinity? Parenthesis. Okay, we are just now starting, but I am telling you that this is in the wrong order. This needs to go first. And then this needs to go second. Can anyone tell me why?
Least to greatest.
So it goes from least to greatest. That's the way we like things in math. Just like in English, you kind of like things in alphabetical order. So I'm going to stop right there. The rest of the day is your day. Okay? The rest of the day is your day, is a working day. You are not going to use matching cards because I have faith that you can do this on your own without a card. You can give me the solution.